Wowza. Big hey now to everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Time for another T-Share report. Woo. Digging into some data. Lots of changes the last couple of weeks. Been crazy. Been a lot of fun though too. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, we're going to go over some of the numbers, at least the forecast that I'm coming up with, and how how HEX may be affected by these changes, and then maybe we can come to an idea of what the use case is for HEX for staking now going forward. Because it was quite a shock, right, to see all this happen. Quite shocking. Oh, without further ado, let me pull up our screen. Let's go take a look. Now, of course, I say all this happening. For those who may have missed it, the OA came out and did a bunch of staking. And that staking changed the number of T-shares that we have on chain. And that affects how the system works. And so just right off the top, we'll take a quick look just at the ratio. We can see that ratio HEX to EHEX right around that 0.22 mark. Up quite a bit from its low, almost all the way down to the 1 to 10 mark. So will that continue? I don't know. But I'll tell you what. When we go look at the amount of traffic volume between the HEX EHEX pairs, over the top, pretty big. So there we are there. So let's go take a look first at our 30-day look ahead. So as I had mentioned to people earlier, and we've talked about it and covered a bunch of different times, that yes, everything that happens will affect the T-share rate. But remember, our T-share rate on HEX is determined by how much, how many rewards or how much reward each individual ending stake earns. And so a lot of these stakes that are making big changes, they're older stakes. They've been around for a while. And so since they've been around for a while, let's see if I have an echo. Somebody else let me know if I have that out there. Since they've been around for a while, even with the lower yield for the last few days, doesn't affect a lot in the near term. In the long term, it does affect it. So you can see right here, we have a stake that we're waiting for now on both chains to end. It hasn't ended yet, but as soon as it does, assuming it does, we should see an increase on both chains of around 1,200 HEX, for T-share rate. So going from around 40 on both chains up to 41.1. Then we hit a little bit of flat period on our 30-day. And this is where any of the short rolling stakes will begin to ratchet it up during that period. We got 60 days, which is almost as far as I can go right at the moment. You can see we have another little bump up that might occur. It's just a little bit higher in the 41,000 range. And then we go out 90 days. You can see my model is starting to misbehave. So I've got some work to do on what those numbers look like. If we go to end of year, you can see again these spikes. It's just a data error on my end. But let's go out to 27. Take a quick look. Now, this one, again, this is factoring in the new payout per T-share and what we've been seeing. And so those of you who may remember our previous streams, we were looking at the end of this year at being somewhere around 49,000 HEX per T-share. And now that has backed off to 45. And then you can see an increase of about 5,000 HEX from the end of this year into the end of 26 to 50,000, and then another 5,000 HEX as you go into 27. So basically what's happened here, and this is a very big concept for everybody to remember, is that the T-share rate increases as we go forward are being halved. So a couple weeks ago, if we looked at this chart, we would have said almost 50, almost 60, almost 70. And then instead, we're saying almost 45, almost 50, almost 55. So it's been halved as we go forward. And that's assuming we continue to see the OA do the same staking behavior. So T-share rate is just going to continue going up and to the right. right? It's not going to change in that respect. It's just how fast it goes up, right? And so you guys drop questions. Um, Tying audio. Huh? I don't know. I only see Hex on Tyne saying there's an echo. Anybody else sees an echo? Let me know if you do. Might have it up on in two different places. Um, all right. So T-share rate up and to the right, just not as a rapid a pace. Uh, Still going to be more expensive each time. All right. If we go out and look at the all models, going way out, you can see that we had been looking at closer to 900,000 all the way out in May of 2040 previously, but now it's backed off by a factor on their KSB estimate. And then if you look at kind of what the case was before, we were thinking, at least I was thinking, maybe we would be seeing 300,000 hex per T-share in 15 years, and now it's dropped down by a third, to give you an idea of where this has landed. So somewhere around 200,000. Now these are just estimates based on, you know, guesses at what will happen in the future. Obviously, I didn't know what was going to happen because I had no idea that Richard was going to, or the OA was going to come out and make the changes that it made. And so now we deal with it, right? And what's going to happen next. And so that's pretty interesting to look at. So again, we look at this rate. We can see it's still going up to the right. KSB estimate, I'm probably going to have to back off a little bit because I don't think we anticipated that. So I need to go, what the OA did. I need to go take a look at that and make sure that we can show the data a little bit better. So yeah, I mean, that's what this rate looks like. Now let's go look at the average stake length of open stakes. This is pretty interesting. All right, so it had been dropping a little bit anyways, but we had on that one day like a huge drop down, right, and then a recovery as we went up to 30 days with the OA stakes, and then a huge drop down, and then a recovery. See if it looks any different. And then the average stake length of overall of stakes that were created went way up. So the differences between open and all stakes. So yeah, this makes sense. We would see that. To me, it makes sense anyways, because we saw a lot of creations of stakes. So a lot of activity on chain. Let's shift over to our other set of charts. Okay, let's look at T-shares. So this is pretty interesting. I reformulated this one. We had been looking at this previously. We're looking at, like, let's say 1/1/2023, and we're looking at it until, let's just say 1/1/2025. This is kind of what we looked like before. So the counted T-shares continuously coming down and to the right. And depending on how I put them up on the charts, it looks a little bit different, and what kind of scale it's at. But you can see just that downward motion. But now that we have all these new T-shares, you see just boom. It's almost a flat line in comparison. And then of course we're up here on the HEX side, about 34 million, 34.9 million, and then on the PHEX side, right around 35.2 million T-shares. So we basically tripled the T-shares, tripled them, times 3. Up we go. That's our T-shares. At the same time, so a little bit of spike in payout over here on the 13th for both chains when those short stakes came out. And then, of course, it was restaked. You can see a little bit of an uptick too on this. I don't have a filter on this one to make it bigger, but what I wanted to say about this is because of that extra hex that was was paid out. Had a little bit of an uptick on the payouts going forward, so we'll have to watch that with the base payouts. But we saw that on both chains, just a little bit of an uptick. There is a little bit of discrepancy between the chains as far as I'm not sure if all of the stakes have restaked yet. So someone might want to dig into that. If you have that information, pass it along to me. We did see a little bit of an uptick on penalties over the last few days, a week. You can visually see that. I'm sure there are some people that decided they're giving up based on this. We saw, they had come down on average to around 4.6 million, and the average is back up to around 4.7, 4.8. But again, nothing signaling like extreme capitulation or anything like that. Nothing really extreme happening. Payouts per T-share. Boo, you can see, this was always like a strange chart to be looking at anyways, but because it was virtually a straight line going up and to the right over time. Hard to see the trend because on the big penalty days, we had the big spikes, but you can see just dropped off this cliff, in the beginning of February, boop, 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 down, right, to where we are today. Meanwhile, as we said, the T-share rate continues to go up and to the right, as we saw on the other charts. Interestingly enough, look at these changes on the stakers, number of stakers. We went from on Pulse Chain from 123,000 to 126,000 stakers overnight. Of course, that has to do with the OA stakes, and anybody who might have been following along with that. So you saw that. You saw 115 to 118,000 on the Ethereum side, so roughly around 3,000 wallets on both sides. Go to the holder charts. Interestingly enough, the holders went down, right? So we were at a peak on the Pulse chain, something around 36,000 or 362,000, excuse me, to roughly around 3,000 less, right? Yeah, so something corresponding to the number of wallets that did staking, something in that neighborhood. I'm sure there's some cross numbering going on there. Some people were coming in while the OA was staking, and so we probably had some net. But that was kind of interesting that the OA had that effect during that period of time. You saw that happening. Let's see, what else do I have here that I might want to show? Base payout per T-share. Another one straight down, just showing where our base is now. Is something around that 1.8 region. Now, this is the part that it gets us into talking about APR. All right. Well, let's take a look at these charts or tables of data. So prior to these changes, our numbers would have been quite different, roughly about double, maybe a little bit more than double than these numbers. And so if we were looking at and we'll go look at the Pulse chain in particular. We were looking at the Pulse chain, you would have been looking at something around, almost 3 times, I think. You would have been looking at it one day being somewhere around 6% or so. Being APY for a single day stake, and your 15-year stakes would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 21%. So we now have 3 times as many T-shares, and the amount of reward has decreased 2/3, right? So I think the math makes sense here. So then the question is, why, what is the staking use case now? With these kinds of changes, why would anybody want to stake? And I think there's a simple answer to that, but we hear from you guys what you guys think too. Let's see what we got here in the chat. I see a whole bunch of people. Carl, Cindy Lou, I see the Shell Fox, Hex on Time. Let's see. So Carl was asking, I wonder how the fees are going to play out this cycle. Not sure the amount of transactions before the multiplier starts kicking in, etc. Stake big as possible just in case. Yeah, pretty important point. People have asked me periodically with HEX how much stake, how much should you stake? And, it's so hard to answer. We don't know. I do know that on Ethereum, 10,000 HEX became a problem. Because going that little started becoming a problem that the gas was too expensive, and so I definitely would side towards at least T-share rate level 40 or 50,000. But I realize everybody can't do that. So you just have to take it as it goes with that, and maybe there's some exposure to HEX that you can get through some of the peripherals or whatever if you're worried about the potential gas fees in the future. And I think you're exactly right, Carl. Particularly on the Ethereum side, with the lower fees, it is going to become an issue, right? Now, for better or worse, Ethereum's been real cheap lately for gas, so that has helped with smaller stakes that have been out there. I've been seeing people reporting that they're ending stakes that they had left to burn previously, that type of thing. Yeah, DCR, that's remarkable. That intro is remarkable. He did a pretty good job with that. Uh, Gar, how are you? Savvy, Archie. Yeah, Archie, this is going to take some time. Archie's saying, hey, it'd be interesting to look at these numbers as things unroll. Yeah, it's going to take some time for this all to unravel. Like for instance, I'm showing you guys this chart here. Right, I'm making a guess, right? Because I have no other way to do it, right? I'm making a guess that the yield would stay very similar, right? Rewards would stay very similar level going into the future. I don't know that to be true, but it's kind of like base case, right? And so you got to pick a number. What I did with these models is previously, if you've listened to my streams, you may have heard me talk about basing these numbers on 6-month averages. And so what I would do is I would take the last 6 months of payouts. I'd use that as the average going forward. And it kind of gives a little bit of baseline. Obviously, that doesn't work now, right? Can't use that because it would be too high. So I've fallen back to a 7-day average at this point with these numbers. And so based on the 7-day average, this is what we're looking at for potential ROI and APR, APY on staking. Now, one of the things too with this, so one, we're going to have to just wait and see because you don't know if behavior is going to change in a month, right? Don't know. Could stay the same, could change. Obviously, change is in the air, so it's possible it could change again. Don't know. But so we'll have to go with what we have, and so this is probably almost the worst possible case. And only way it could get worse from here would be for the OA to stake even more. And if it was to do that, I guess short term it would change these numbers. Or if it went Quattro Cinco, right, it would be getting 3 times the ability to reduce the rewards. And so at this point, when we're looking at the ROI, I'm looking at Pulse Chain. Yeah, man. I think that even though people are still doing it even today, right? I don't know that I would stake for 30 or 60 days for 0.4% ROI. Right? I don't know that I'd do that. I don't know whether people will do it. So we're going to just have to observe what they're doing. I don't have rolling short stakes like that, so I don't know what's in their minds. But previously, you could be earning almost 1/8% on quite a bit of rolling stakes, and actually live off of that if you were scraping those rewards and then selling them. But this is how it lays out at the moment. If you were to do a 7-day stake, it would be 0.047% at the moment. And so if I had, you know, ten $10,000 worth of HEX, and just assume the price didn't change, and I multiply that by 0.047%, it's $470 a week on 10,000. And so, yeah, I might even got that wrong. Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's even worse than that. Hold on. I got to actually make sure I have the right zeros in. So it's 0.00, right? Will get us to 1%, 0.047, right? So that would be two more zeros, three zeros, a 4, 7 times 10,000. Yeah, this is more like it. So let's say I was doing 10,000. So if I was doing $10,000 for 7 days, I'd make $4.70. And yeah. So that is not something that I think from an income generation point of view, somebody probably is going to want to do. But well, let's see what they say, what they do. Right. And if I multiply that out by 52 and divide that by 10,000, you can't see this on the screen. Yeah, that brings us up to the 2.44% or 2.46%. So yeah, in other words, it is not super beneficial to do short stakes. Now, that being said, on the long term, and this is with the correction behaviors, on the long term, being able to lock in what might be at this point the lowest low of 7.355%, going out 15 years as an APY, knowing that it will rise and vary over time with staking behavior. Yeah, some people might take that bet. I mean, I know I did. Like I Quattro Cinco this week, because in the backdrop here, right, HEX has just become super scarce as compared to previously, because sure, the inflation is very similar or the same, but a great amount of that inflation now goes to the OA. It doesn't go into people's hands, and so there will be a supply shock of sorts over time, for sure. And so what does that mean? um, what does that mean? That means long term, very, very long term, you're going to be in a situation where you might be one of the very few collecting new HEX while it becomes more and more scarce, right? And how does that scarcity occur? Besides the fact that people lose HEX periodically in wallets and send it to the wrong addresses or whatever. Every time there's a penalty, more HEX gets locked up. Every time the OA earns more HEX, it goes into that bag. So yeah, over time, you could see a situation where HEX becomes less and less available. I mean, the numbers are down less than 1 billion HEX available on the market, which is a lot of scarcity. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Right, AKA. So good to see you, buddy. Haven't seen his JSL for a while. Thank you guys for checking my sound. I appreciate it. Cindy Lou. Fud the haters. That's what I'm saying. Fud them. Tin Top, a long time, buddy. Ted Nelson, good to see you, my friend. Everybody else here in the chat. Yeah, David, some positivity. I got to tell you, I reacted very emotionally to these changes myself. Not uncharacteristically, but I uncharacteristically had a lot to say about it, because I've been working really strongly towards this idea of maybe it's just justification for what I do, that I'm staking. Maybe it's bias for that. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you think about it this way is I was having conversations with people about doing Quattro Cincos at 21% APR or APY. And people were not happy about that. They were like, nah, why would I even lock up for that? I can get a double. I can get a double on a double on a double during that period of time. It's really hard to argue that point. And so now we're not talking about, 21% for Quattro Cincos. We're talking about 7%. right? Now, why is that a big deal? Well, I think it's a big deal because I think, it's going to be even harder to convince people to restake. And that's okay. I don't need to convince anybody to do anything. I mean, it's not my job to do that. And I really don't give out financial advice, right? I'm just kind of like going over what I'm thinking about this stuff. But it seems to me that we already had this huge gap out in the future of T-shares. They always filled it quite a bit. But I mean, as far as users go, um, users not staking, we had a mere 20,000, 25,000 T-shares. And so I think this is another litmus test of true believers. Now, I don't think anybody should go out with their entire bag 15 years. I think you should have a good, well-structured strategy that meets your needs, your family's needs, your needs, short-term, medium-term, long-term. But hell, I mean, it makes even more sense to have a T-share out Quattro Cinco now, in my mind, because nobody else can be thinking that. They're going to be like, nope, unless you're already doing it and you have a ladder that's maintained. It's like, man, people are going to be like, no, I'm not doing that. And then, as Archie says, here's the big one, right? Staking now. You'll have exposure to all the potential emergency end stakes. Now, sure, you wouldn't get as much as you would before because the OA is so big there, but that's the case. And so, um, yeah, yeah. I mean, so you put yourself in a position to actually collect those emergency end stakes as well. And then Cindy Lou, very good question. This kind of goes right along here along these lines. Question is, why would we stake now before we go to the moon? Except for what we want to leave for the future generation wealth for the children. Yes, I'm old. It's all about generational wealth. Well, I don't. Well, yeah, maybe, but I don't think that's the. I don't think you just have to like classify us as old, right? I think part of it could be this is so why stake now before the rocket? So I quite often talk to people about having a plan, and in your plan, you already know what you need in life, financially, at least what your goals are. And so when you apply that to crypto, you know what you need to come out of crypto and when. And yeah, if you have your short term covered and your medium term covered, then there's a strategy that you can put in place for long term. And so yeah, this is it's going to sound silly, but if somebody was to stake Quattro Cinco now, you have to understand that you don't have access to that hex, right? And as silly as that sounds, some people got bent out of shape over that, right? So don't stake Quattro Cinco if you're planning to sell in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, right? Don't stake at all, maybe stay liquid. But why not? And this is where having a ladder, and it takes time to get one in place, can really be useful because if you had a laddering of stakes of hex into the future, you're going to be getting hex every year or every quarter, and then you'd be able to do what you wanted to do with it when it came out. But yeah, I totally get the question. Like, why would I stake now if I'm trying to sell it, right? It doesn't. If that's what the plan is, you'll be locked up, and so you wouldn't want to do that. I hope that answers that fully. Um, boom. Carl's saying, "Hey, thank you, Crispy Man. I try to make them around one T-shirt each. Should be good with those with the pulse hex. Yeah, I think that probably would be okay, Carl. I think as to each person's ability, that's at least a good try. Um, yeah, Hex to Mars. What happened to the 786? I don't know. Let's go look. We'll go look and see in a moment and see if I can find all of the stakes and if they all ended. I don't have them tagged my name, but it looks to me like there might be some of them that are still out there that haven't been ended. I haven't tracked all of them by hand, so I don't know. And Archie's saying the reason to get in there and get the stakes is to collect the EES rewards. And I think that could be a very big deal, right? If you don't have exposure to it, you're not getting them, and it could be many billions of hex that get emergency end staked and rewarded out, to holders. Yeah, yeah, Carl, I got a few of those bleeding on the other side too. So yeah, he's just saying some of his original stakes are bleeding on the east side. Depending on how small they are, go take a look. they had the fees have dropped off like crazy cheap on Ethereum side. Don't know if it'll make a difference, but eventually that hex will be worth so much that somebody will go get accounted for the penalties. Oh, let's see. I bought EHEX at 0.004. Do you think it's worth it? Well, what can I tell you about prices? Let me look at prices real quick while we're here. I'll grab one of the charts. I'll throw it up on the screen here. EHEX hex. Where are we? That's a pretty good one. Let's go V1. I'll take a look at this. EHEX hex. Yeah, so unfortunately, right, it's off a little bit from that price if you're up at the 0.004. Let me see if I get my screen to render for you. There it is. Yeah, so we're up a little bit higher and it's down a little bit lower. This is on the 1 minute chart, so we shouldn't be looking at that. Structurally, I was kind of looking at this hex on hex, and it seemed like we hit our peak, hit these levels, a little bit of common resistance level on the past up here, and kind of pulled back down. Hex is tied with hex. So when we look at, these are all the hex pairs that are out here. We look just at the EHEX pairs themselves. And I'll make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. Okay. So there's looks like about 6.3 million, almost 6.4 million in liquidity of EHEX on the Pulse chain side. Primarily tied with HEX, UFO. You got the HOTX or the HOX. You got Pulse out there at 431,000. So, and then it's paired a little bit further here. So, primarily though, it's going to be mostly affected. It looks like by HEX and of course some of the other pairs that are out there. And so often we've talked about the cost or the price of EHEX kind of rotating back and forth around whatever its ratio is, a little bit higher or a little bit lower over time. So I think you'll see something like that happen with it. So is it worth it? I think it has a good chance to overperform HEX at certain points for sure. But at this point too, I don't know. I don't know that price is in the hands of TA at this point or market structure. I don't know that I don't know that you can be. I don't think we can like draw anything on the chart and be like, oh, it's going to do this or that. I mean, it's all us making stuff up, right? Like I'm guessing what the price will be in the future because I don't know. I mean, I don't know what all you guys are going to do, right? I don't know what the OE is going to do. I don't know what new people are going to do, but I do know what I can see that's happened, and that is the amount of HEX being rewarded on a daily basis out to stakers has dropped significantly. And people are less inclined even more to stake. So the amount that they're getting has dropped, which means less will make it to the market. So that's a little bit of a supply crunch. That'll be affected even further by less people staking and less stakes going in. So it's a little bit of supply crunch. Meanwhile, I know my reaction to all this has been take all my HEX and make sure that it's not available on the market. So I pulled LP. I see that LP has been pulled. If nothing else, the corresponding move is the ink, farms. The HEX is really reduced there. So we have quite a bit less HEX on the market and quite a bit of speculation going on about price going up and quite a few people trying to hold their HEX and not get rid of it, whether it's EX or PX. So this is creating the supply dynamic where, yeah, it's getting pretty scarce pretty quick. Now, what does that mean? that means it can move much more easily in any direction, up or down. A lot more volatility. So I think we're going to see that, right? So I think we have this perfect storm that kind of transcends things, and I think I think we moved into psychological territory now, where it simply is going to come down to for Hex, are people buying it or are they selling it? And what are the psychological levels? And the key psychological levels are going to be 56 cents, all-time high. Get past that, dollars in play. That's a psychological level because we're human, so we're going to think a lot of people will be thinking about a dollar. The market may fake us out. Maybe some people don't care about a dollar, and it might just blow right through a dollar, or it could fade at a dollar. Um, Beyond that, it's blue skies, right? Every time you come up with a number, somebody might fixate on $2, $3, $4, $5, whatever it might be. Those could all be numbers, and I think the rise in price will go um, as long as we as long as the Jeets think that they have an opportunity to get more, right? So the greater the R&R, the longer this will go, and the higher hex will go. And so it's kind of like the Bitcoin stuff. Have you ever observed this before? Back when back in 2017, the call was, "Hey guys, Bitcoin's going to 100K this year. It's going to 100K. It's going to 100K." Right? And so everybody's trying to get in, get in, get in. Went to 20K. It was over. Boom. It's over. Right. 21. Hey man, there was always somebody saying crazy $1 million numbers, but in 2021, it's going to 300K. It's going to 300K. It's going to 300K. It's going to where'd it go? 60K. Boom. Done. 70K. Whatever you want to call those numbers in between. Right. And it was done. So what are they calling for this time on Bitcoin? $1 million Bitcoin, $1 million. So you're pretty sure there's going to be 250, 300. Maybe Richard will be exactly right, 240. And so the question's going to be like in this scenarios, comparing it to Bitcoin, people are holding, 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 holding. They're making enough money, making enough money. I mean, they're like, well, it's only 20K, like back in 17, and they're saying it's going to 100. I'm going to hold the 50. So the longer people think like that, the higher to go. Um, but the more people go, oh man, you know what? I bought this Bitcoin for $200 or $1,200. 20K is enough. I'm going to sell. That'll change it. And of course, the big market makers and players decide to take profits. They could single-handedly turn the market, right, and make the top because they're just going to be like, hey, I'm out and take their gains. I guess my point is that the actual prices, I don't know what they're going to be, but it's going to be based on how much upside the market perceives is still there. Oh yeah, volatile. Boom. Yeah, I agree with you. I think for Hex, the way to use Hex is a ladder. Have a 15-year ladder and just reap the gains from that. It doesn't have to be your only strategy, but I think it's a great central strategy. Saul, appreciate your good comments. Thanks, buddy. I do. All right, Carl saying, hey, probably good to have a little exposure to all the RH cores. Yeah, I still go back to what he had said in the beginning when we branched out. Just have exposure to Hex, Pulse Hex, Ink. He didn't ever really talk about Ink, but having well spread out. I mean, it prevents you from having to FOMO back and forth because I don't know about you guys. I mean, sometimes I'm able to call it, but damn, you know, a lot of these, I don't know whether it's time to rotate into ink, rotate out of ink. Don't know. I don't know if I should be chasing this. So I know some people took a really good trade and they went Pulse to Pulse X before Pulse X got closer to the same as Pulse price. But I'm not a trader. I don't want to do that, so I just left it in the farm. So I come back to exactly your point, which is what with all this mayhem going on, just having exposure to them is good enough for me. I mean, they'll all go up if they're tied together. They can't. It's unlikely you can see one's going to go down, the others are going to go up. So maybe exception to that would be the volatility of ink. So just maintain exposure. You know. Yeah. So we all want that verdict on the court case. Sooner the better. I do think that what's happened with the hex system is it's kind of put in safe mode, meaning good outcome, bad outcome, it's covered, man. Always going to be in a good spot to help manage and keep the guardrails on the system. Volatile sand. I'm even thinking of rotating profits from my PulseX into HEX to keep the six. Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of people talk about doing that stuff as well. Sandy Beach. Good to see you. Shell Fox talking about the HSIs. Yeah, guys. Got your HSIs. Don't lose them. Don't lose them because with the change. So if you think of it this way, right, going forward, all the new stakes, at least while the payouts are low, it'd be very very small payouts, right? And so that means that those low T-share rate, high T-share HSIs in the past are going to be golden. They're going to have more reward and yield baked into them than any of the new stakes for sure. And so they could become quite valuable long term, quite valuable. Remember, even all the OG stakes, right? They're subject to the same dilemma. They only have so many T-shares. Sure, they get a little bit more T-shares for the hex, so they'll outpace newer stakes anyways. But they're not getting some sort of phenomenal payout at this point, right? You'd have to go look at those numbers and see what they are. But they're going to be very similar to what we're looking at. Maybe they'll be in the 10 to 14% range going forward. Doesn't mean that their aggregate annualized won't be higher. Just I mean that going forward percentage is going to be pretty low. Anyways, in any case, those HSIs are going to be gold, I think, to hold on to if you got them. And Carl, yeah, and Carl, you're just saying, hey, priority plan is staking. I think that's what you're saying. And then the rest of it is for your medium and long, or your medium and short term stuff. Right, I agree with that. give me your emergency end stakes. Let's see what else we got there. There's no buying pressure. That is true. It is true. Pity Pangos. I haven't seen. I guess I shouldn't say no. There's limited buying pressure, and but that could turn in a heartbeat. You know, in a second, we could see that. Like you can see that turning over pretty quickly, particularly with the hype. So no offense to anybody new listening, but a lot of people, yeah, got all jazzed up and came into Hex and Pulse Chain in the first place because they saw Hex going up. Because green candles really do bring people in. They do bring people in. And so, yeah, we start seeing something like that. And people think they're going to get a 10x or 100x or 1000x. I think you'll see them jumping on board. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, Cindy Lou says, but I see so many dumping. Are they rich enough? They don't care or they're scared. There's a lot of different things happening. I think emotions are out there, Cindy. There's a lot happening. So I think probably the best thing to do is kind of zoom out and just see overall and watch the inflows and outflows, um, and how that might work out over time. Because you know, I I don't know which ones are doing strategy and which ones are just selling the market out. You know, remember there is such a thing as duplicity, right? People saying one thing, doing another, doing one thing with one set of wallets while doing something with another. I've seen plenty of examples of people, setting positions and then dumping price to accumulate because you don't have to dump as much as you want to accumulate. You dump some and you scare a bunch of other people to dump and they dump, and then you actually end up with more, right? So I don't do that, but as a practice, I don't do that. Maybe by accident, but people obviously do try to get other people fudded out for sure. All right. So I don't know what's going on, but there's also some scary stuff. I mean, and plus I've seen some people get chopped up, man. They just get chopped up. I'm watching even my own stuff. I gotta be careful what I'm doing, because start typing, start putting even if I'm trying to like correct an LP position, get all chopped up in fees and impermanent loss and stuff. Rose up, soar, row up, soar. I don't know what that means. That might be your name. I'll try my best, row up. Will PulseX have a stake feature? Don't know. Seems like it should. Not here yet. Maybe, maybe. Nobody said. Nobody said. But that single-sided staking is something, and that's kind of what I'm holding my ink for. I'm like, there's going to be a use case for it. That's my opinion, no fact. Crispy, can you see a $1 million T-share within 10 years? Yes, yes, I could see that. How would that happen? Let's go look, and we'll show everybody how that could happen. Um, so without saying, hey, yeah, I actually expect, um, no end in sight on prices. I do think we'll be going up for sure. Let's go to our. That's close enough. We'll look at this one. This is it's the model going out to 37. So 10 years from today, 10 years from today, 25. So we're looking at 2035. All right. If the T-share rate was 83,000 hex per T-share, don't know if that'll be the number, but T-share rate is 83,000 hex for T-share. That would be, let's see, take $1 million, right? So if it has to be $1 million and 83,000 hex divided by 83,000, so that would give us $12 hex. And so, yeah, could we potentially have a $12 hex in 10 years? Sure, why not? We could see it this season. Will we see it? Don't know. I wouldn't plan on an exact number. What I would try to do is plan for. This is what I'm trying to do: plan for what my needs and wants are to participate into the future, etc. So I can do. But so yeah. Let's see. Do RH coins drop around conventions? I don't know. If you're referring to like the 369 um, type of conference, I've seen it do both, I guess. So yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of people away during that period, but not too many, I think. So it could be up or down, I guess. Yeah, Carl, this is what I'm thinking too. I mean, I certainly am valuing my hex even more. I mean, not that I wasn't valuing it before. Oh, and I had to think. I had to think really hard about this. I pushed the button, man. I went Quattro Cinco this week, and so I'm walking the walk. I was like, man, do I do this now? I did it. I did it. I went out there, so I'm out there. So, oh yeah. And Johnny, hey Johnny, what's up, buddy? The reason people don't actually realize 100x because they don't enter till after the first 10x. Yeah, yeah, that's a big thing too that happens, right? Because a lot of people are catching the tail end, and it's something we kind of learn through with crypto as you go along. Um, of course, I'm more conservative, so I've learned this like firsthand, right? I'm not usually first mover. I'm not first mover, right? Meaning, as soon as something pops, I don't necessarily go get it. Now, there have been plenty of times where I have, and it worked out, and mostly the time it don't, right? So I'm more like second or third in line when it comes to that stuff, and so that's what happens to a lot of people. They'll come into crypto and they're going to be like, we'll already have a 10 or 20x, and be like, I'm here for the 100x, or whatever, and then it only has 20x left in it, and they'll hold too long, you know. So that's been off a little bit. Yeah. Hey, Hex Squid, good to see you. Yeah, that Validator X and Vouch is another one that's out there doing pretty good. I do like the Validator X. It's that compounding liquid pulse validator. If you guys are interested in that, go take a look at that video. Working pretty good. Carl saying, I feel like the market's training us to cheat the next month. Yeah, it is, man. It is. It is. It is all about the cheats, isn't it? That's the scariest part about um, about this, what I call the new IQ test, same as the old IQ test. Um, you think about it this way. You get a whole bunch of people, if they're not restaking their HEX, they're keeping it liquid. And if they're keeping it liquid, it means they have access to it, which means they can do something with it. And I know we'll talk to people and they're all going to tell you that everybody makes the right decisions and they all win. They're all winners, but somebody's not winning. And so, yeah, I just think it's just more opportunity for that HEX to get shaken out of people's hands because they're not even locking it up, you know? And so, yeah, that's going to be the case. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting times. I really see this whole hex staking as being a walled garden type of thing where perhaps only the people like me who are interested in it are going to continue to do it, and everybody else will fade it. Maybe it'll only be a small group of people. I don't know. Well, we shall see. Cindy Lou's thanking Johnny for sharing. Johnny's thanking me for providing data. And I don't know who's new, but if you're new, hit the like and subscribe. Cindy Lou. All right. Like Johnny's saying, we don't know for sure what the prices will be in and when. That's 100% true, man. We don't know. I don't know. But you can make sure you keep it back, right? And staking does. That's kind of what I was going after, too. Staking does make sure that you have that. Oh, let's see what else we got. Yeah, volatile. I wish I can get Richard's attention. Volatile saying, I'm wondering if the OA wallets are utilizing the free COM they would have received for the 15-year stakes. To my knowledge, the answer to that is no. No. Now, why does that matter? Well, um, it matters a couple of different ways. If the OA never accesses it, I guess that's okay, and that never enters the market. So that is what it is. If the OA did claim it, the OA would have to decide whether to stake it or to mint it. And so both of those would have effects. One would be a very strong indication it was just staked. That hey, we got all this additional COM out there staked, right? If it was minted, it would offer up other opportunities to do things with the COM. But one of which would be used to set up LP in support of HEX, which would be pretty interesting to see that. And that's that whole secret weapon approach where the OA having access to as much HEX as it does could create a ratio between HEX and COM, which is favorable for people being incentivized to stake their HEX in order to get COM. But alas, I don't know the OA and don't get to talk to the OA. So yeah, maybe he or she or they or Richard or somebody's watching. They'll look into COM some more. Um, yeah, Archie. This is my question to myself too. Does it change my behavior? So Archie's saying, hey, these changes won't change my behavior. In fact, makes me value the X more. Yeah, I got to tell you, I felt a little bit like a psychopath. You know, punching in numbers and sending them out to Quattrocinco, man. I did. I listen. I feel like everybody else, but I'm like, man. I don't think it's going to be any different. I don't think it's going to be any different than how it's been. I think it's just more walled garden stuff, and you know, perhaps I'll be the last person standing with a T-share, or you will. I don't know. You know, what an opportunity! What an opportunity! Fast Abdul saying, "Tell me your secrets, Lewis. How you doing, Lewis? Is there any use case for EHEX? Since there's a use case for EHEX. Just its existence, EHEX existing has value because it does have a community around it, and even if it is a crossover community between different areas, and because it has a community and people have the tokens, they want to do things with those tokens, including providing LP. So people are willing to put value up to make a market. and more LP begets more value and more LP. So yeah, I think there continues to be use case for that. And it could be, I don't, the speculation on the whole Ethereum pulse chain thing has been beat to death, but apparently they can exist side by side, and they are. So, I mean, for anybody who has a substantial EHEX, you know what I'm talking about. You're pretty happy so far, right? I mean, maybe you weren't happy if you'd got a bad ratio and that's how you got in, but you have this opportunity to go after it and keep those stakes up and running. I tell you, yeah, I haven't checked lately, um, but I think that with EHEX, if you had been up until recently, anyways, if you had just been DCing the whole time and staking, you were already well in profit for a long, long, long time, long, long, long time. During that period, timing of it all. When you would have started your DCA made a big difference. But the fact that just on EHEX alone, you might have been close to being a profit or an in profit. Plus, you got all the free PHEX stakes. Pretty cool. Well, my friend Volatile, perhaps if there are no more other questions that come up in the chat, we'll close out on this comment. I could see RH Max's post coming true. No one wants to buy HEX now, but they'll be scrambling to buy it over $1. Yeah, yeah, there's something about that, right? Because people do look for confirmation and confirmation bias. And I've told the story tongue in cheek a ton of times, right? I mean, I literally bought ETH at $1.87, but I didn't buy it at $1.87 to keep it. I bought it because I wanted something else, right? Never occurred to me that I should stockpile. What the hell? I was new, right? No, it never occurred to me that, hey, maybe this is going to be worth $5,000 or $4,000 or $3,000 someday. Maybe I should stockpile them, right? It never occurred to me. But now that, of course, after it had gone up to 4,000, I wanted a whole lot of it, right? And just kept picking stuff up. And then same thing with Bitcoin, man. I was like, I knew about Bitcoin from the beginning. I'm older than some of you guys out there, and I knew about it. I read the white paper when it was released on the internet, you know, in the Wired news article, whatever the hell it was, right? I mean, I had the opportunity to push the buttons. I wasn't interested in free Bitcoin. I wasn't interested in dollar Bitcoin. I wasn't even interested in $1,200 Bitcoin. I got real interested at $2,000 Bitcoin. So it's just how it goes, right? Because you're confirming that things are going to be around longer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, yeah. The last of the hexagons, the last T-share will be worth a fortune. You're welcome, Lewis. I'll just try to answer the best I can. If I don't have the answer, Johnny, give it to you. Somebody give you the answer, right? But we got plenty of people who can answer this stuff. Cindy Lou saying the right answer is take half and keep half liquid for long-term security. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I mean, people, I didn't do that. I went 100% staked with a frequency that gives me the hex up that I want when I want it. But yeah, I've heard people talk 5%, 10%, 20%. You say 50%. Sure. I think again depends on your goals. Like I kind of think about what I'm doing with crypto in terms of specific goals, right? And so there might be more of a number, to go after for that kind of thing. Yeah, Carl said he used to be a miner and spent a Bitcoin on mining equipment that fried. Yep. Johnny, why not have property in both cities? You choose the property. Yeah, that's right. You choose the residence. Oh, here's a good question. This might be a thing. The original Hex swimmer. That's a really cool avatar, man. I like that. Was there big hex actually burned or just burned for stake purposes, which will get unburned after a stake end? I think the latter is what would happen. I didn't follow up, and I did see somebody like posting about hex being burned, but I didn't see actually eyeball a transaction where any hex was burned, meaning went to a burned address. So in hex, in any case, other than through the contract when staking, which is like kind of a special situation. Hex does get burned temporarily. You get an entry in the blockchain and the contract that says you have this much hex allocated, but it still is kind of like in existence from that point of view. That's different than tokens actually being taken out of the system completely. Like there are some cases where you can burn tokens if the contract allows you to burn tokens, and Hex does not allow you to burn tokens in that way. So as individuals or even the OA, you can't make the number of the total supply come down in that way, right? Where in some other tokens it can't. But what you can do is take tokens and send them to a burn address, which is quote unquote the dead address, or on Pulse Chain, the 0x369 address. And it just basically means unavailable. Nobody can touch it. It's not actually burned, but nobody can earn on it. Nobody can sell it. Nobody can move it because it's in an address that's locked down. Yeah, Lewis, I'd send you over to Papa Boehner at the B9 guys and security as far as devices. But yeah, and even Maddie Allen has a reference over to Trezor. I mean, the two common ones that I know of are the Trezor and the Ledger. But be very careful with how you pick those up. Make sure from good source. Primary supplier should be the company itself, and you need to validate that. Um, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of security and hardware wallets. Oh, this is a good one, Volatile. What pitch do you use to onboard new users because the word crypto scares people for some reason? But I try to explain Hex. Nobody wants to listen. I'm frustrated. Certificates of deposit. There's so much material out there, and I know even though we don't like well, maybe you guys like it. I know I like the higher APR, but I can deal with the lower APR. And so it's a modified argument about why set up a CD ladder. And there's a ton of documentation and literature out there from every sort of financial institution you could think of. I'll tell you all about setting up a certificates of deposit, ladder, and how that could work. And so I would start there and keep it simple beyond that. And because not only do you get that with these current rates will likely go up. And if you're willing to take the risk reward, you have the exposure to crypto and the fact that there could be price appreciation. But that's it. I mean, I actually had people when I told them I was in Hex stop talking to me. So yeah, you hear a lot of people with those stories. Mackie, yes, these are very exciting times. Yes, I'm excited. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Lewis, when we start talking about the in supply EHEX, yeah, it takes a little bit of breakdown. I'll try to get my information together on this. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the story is there with the exact numbers and what's there. Um, we do have some information that is out on Hex Daily Stats or Hex Stats Today, and you can go look at that information, and it'll give you some, high level, or you can go to the contract for that matter and see what's allocated, how much is staked, how much is is circulating, etc. So you can kind of get an idea of what it is, what's actually available out there. And then the question comes, what's the definition of market cap? What do you include in market cap? Do you include OA stakes? Do you include OA liquid? Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, honestly, I've tried a couple times grabbing the market cap and doing some stuff on it for the chain. I just gave up after a while because there's so many different rules that I have to put in place for all the different tokens. Very hard to replicate what the majors are doing with it anyways. Original Hex Swimmer saying, any word on what Papa B and Kinetics are up to? I know Papa B is still, working with his single pane of security, website b9.xyz. I haven't heard from Kinetics in months and months, and so I don't know what's happening with that. I haven't heard or seen anything from him in a long time. Yeah, and Johnny's saying, hey, you can't force it when trying to onboard. That is, as for nothing, create a small wallet to show them what it does and give them the address to watch. Yep, that works. B9's a scam. Yeah, a free token that's given out to people. Yeah, and no, it's not a scam, but I mean, I think you're being joking. All right, Carl saying, I like the crypto laptop method and seed backup. Yeah, that's some people do that too. I know. I just keep hearing from more and more people getting violated, Oh, row up sore. Want to buy a million EHEX is good to move. Was a good move or buy PX instead. I don't know, man. It depends what your final plan is, whether you're staking or not. But in any case, usually when I come to these kind of decisions, if it's that hard to decide, um, I'll allocate to both. It's kind of like what Johnny said, just why have why only have one piece of real estate on both, you know. But it's such a hard decision with those. But I think in general, I kind of move towards the I move towards the towards the PHEX instead. But that's just again, that's my opinion. It doesn't mean that I don't have EX. I do. I got plenty of it, so I'm doing stuff with it, but I have that. Yeah, hey, Johnny's asking if you concluded the max possible T-shares and minimum possible payout base. I have not. I haven't done that yet, Johnny. I'm kind of working on the model to kind of update all this stuff, but should have happened automatically, but a lot of things changed with all these stakes and whatnot. So it's been kind of fun. Max possible T-shares. We're probably at something close to whatever the max might be, though it is possible. You assume that the OA short stakes were all the HEX they had, and they were able to create 10 million T-shares roughly from those short stakes. And the maximum they can go out is add another 20 million to the current staking of T-shares. So probably be somewhere in the 58 million range, I would guess. Maybe 60 million would be what the number is today. And of course, the minimum possible payout would be that would be another 20 million would be having the amount. So we were talking before about being 7% for a Quattro Cinco. So probably the lowest base payout would bring us down to 1 HEX per T-share or something like that. I don't know. And again, hard to really know if that's what will happen, right? Because I don't know. And nobody gave us a plan. There's no roadmap. We just know that the what we see on chain when the OA does stuff. Right. So Carl saying, do you see it's some pulse above half sack right? Oh, I thought there'd be support. Yeah, a lot of people complaining about that. Chicken petter. Chicken petter. I think there's services where I don't know if that's what you're doing, but there's services where you can rent a chicken, so people can pet them. I've seen that. They do rent a sheep too, but keep your minds clean. It's for eating grass. All right. Chicken Better says, how does HEX keep from falling through the cracks over time? And tens of millions of degenerate coins will be created, and HEX whales try to cheat the cycles. Yeah, you're not a bad question, Chicken Better. I think it's a problem everybody has with crypto in general. You need to attract the community and keep the community, and the community needs to add value, and that adding that value, whether it's through marketing some other way, uh, new people are attracted, and it attracts more value, and so that's how it continues to grow. Um, sometimes we feel like Hex is falling through the cracks. I think that's true, but I really don't think it isn't. I mean, we have a pretty diverse group of people, pretty diverse, and it's growing all the time. And so maybe it's time for the trader population to grow and not the shaker population as much. Maybe that's the case. Though I believe the true use case for Hex is long-term staking ladder. That's what I believe, but that doesn't mean that's the only thing people can do. They do whatever they want. And so if they find it to be good for, long-term cycle trading, scalp trading, day trading, good on them. Right. Um, all right. Your thoughts on pump tires? To me, there are way too many rug pulls. I give up on it. Yeah. Pump tire is pretty interesting, right? So on the surface, is DeFi. People want that. They can have it. That's exactly what it's been. Pump.fund's the same thing, right? It's what it's always been, right? There's only a chosen few that make it all the way to launch and actually take off. Everybody else has gotten their tokens earlier, and they try to dump right away. I mean, you see that in the charts. I'm not like making that up. Um, Seems like bots are able to take advantage of pump.tires in the very last bits of takeoff. Maybe somebody could verify that with the devs, but it looks like what they're able to do is come in and finish a pool in the same transaction as it launches and sell. So that seems to be happening with some of these. I don't know. You see apparently somebody had set up a bunch of bots to run a bunch of it, afterwards. And so you saw tons and tons of volume and high gas prices running through those pairs. So there's that going on. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, people need to be careful what they do and what they get involved in. But if you like that kind of entertainment, which is what it is, you want to gamble like that, yeah, it's fun. And we launched one a couple of weeks ago. It was fun to do it. And a bunch of people watching it and making the chart go up. It was a lot of fun. Did it lose 70% of its value? Yeah, it did. Whether you held or not because somebody else sold. Now, chain wise, I think it's huge for the chain because number one, it gives people an opportunity to create and fund new meme tokens and get them into get them out there with some locked liquidity that people can believe in, and that's good. It creates even more liquidity on the chain because it is that, at least for that locked portion that stays locked, it creates more liquidity, and it adds more volume. It adds more volume to everything. And so yeah, I think all those things, but as a strategy, not for me. I mean, somebody's doing something I like and I have fun with it. That's a different story. But as a strategy, no. Um, so is it true that OA of HEX stake 95% of the circulating supply? What would happen after staking is done? Sorry for the noob questions. That's all right, Lewis. A lot of people need the catch up. Roughly true. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but this is on both EHEX and PHEX side. So yes, about that much has been staked up. What would happen after staking is done? Well, for a great amount of that, I'm sorry, I don't have exact numbers for you, but about half, say, is out 15 years. So unstaking isn't happening anytime soon. If it did happen, what would happen is those 15-year stakes, the half that are out there, would be completely penalized and get spread out to all the other holders, the other not holders, but the other stakers. That's unlikely, but that's possible. The remaining HEX had gone out just a month, right? And so those stakes did end. They were out for 7 days. Somebody'd have to do the forensics to see if every single one restaked and all that. But the 7 day stakes did end. What happened when it ends? HEX is minted. The HEX is returned with the principal to the user. It's all immutable. It's through the contract. And then they do whatever they want to do with the HEX. In this case, it was restaked for 30 days. Now, the effects that has on the system is this, is that because those stakes were made and they were ended, new HEX was minted. And because new HEX was minted, the total supply increased. Because the total supply increased, the daily payout increased by a smidge, a little bit. And so long term, and this is something that Johnny Casses in the chat was talking about, periodically, we talked about it before. Long term, what you see because of this phenomena of the T-share rate coming down and the payouts going up at the same time, what you see is that the payouts will go up. Or I should say when I say payouts, the more HEX gets minted, the higher the payout, than the T-share rate's coming down. So it creates more of an APR. So even the low APRs will float upwards in number. Oh yeah, I didn't even know you had said this, Johnny. Johnny's saying, regardless, the compounding effect results in an increase of baseline payout over time. It does. It does. May have dropped, but the new the new baseline will go up, and that, I think this is what you meant to say. That is whether the OA continues to restake or not. It doesn't matter. It's going to do it anyways, right? It just goes slower if the OA is not staking. So it could increase. Brought it down a lot, but it could increase the rate of incline, which begs the question that possibly later, maybe the OA stops staking. All of a sudden, boom, your payouts go right back up. Yeah, hex squid. But technically, you're saying the good thing with the pump.tire rugs is that the pulse is locked forever, and that's probably a good point. They're not technically rugs. They're not rugs. This is game. This is player versus player game. You and I were racing to see if we can get the most of the new token. We're putting our pulse up, and the idea is, can I dump faster than you can dump? But that's not a rug pull. Rug pull would be more like somebody pulled all the liquidity and you can't get anything for it. There's always liquidity remaining in these pools, which is why it's an additive thing that gets locked in. And those pools will continue. It's very, very cool for Pulse Chain because that just means more and more pulse being locked up. Not only was it burned, but there's always going to be a portion of that pulse locked up that can be tapped for liquidity. And I mean, our volumes are up pretty high, on Pulse Chain. Maybe 50% higher than they were, 40% higher a couple weeks ago. So I like that. Another question from the Johnny Cast. The other question, would it be possible if the amount of potential T-shares left for purchase with the remaining 5% of the supply? What would be the amount? I don't know. I have to go look and see. But that's something to theorize, because really what we're really saying is this: you can't get much, man. There aren't that many more you can actually get. And so that's the whole deal, right? I mean, that's the whole scarcity argument. And again, I think it's going to come down to the Jeets, friendly word for those who are going to sell. I mean, who's willing to wait the longest to get the highest price? Because in my opinion, I'm sure there's some other people doing TA that differ on this, but I think price can go up to any number you want it to go up to. I think it's just going to depend on whether or not people sell. Maybe it's always that way, but at least with the charts, we're looking at past behavior and how it fits the mold. But I think gloves are off. I mean, really, things are really tightened up supply wise. Let's see. Pulse has been up in the top 5 for quite a while. The next screener top 5, yeah. Might flip ETH. That'd be pretty cool. HEX Swimmer says, appreciate your knowledge. Have enjoyed your input over the years and calmness. I hope you're doing okay financially with all the time invested in HEX. Same with Giant Chaos. I guess we're doing okay. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'll tell you what, it would have been better if it's like some people bring it up. I planned on long term, right from the beginning. So I didn't even have a bag ready for last time around, last cycle. So yeah, a lot of my learning has come with how did I feel all through uh, all through 22, 23, and 24, and what do I need to have in place. So, but I've always been working on the long term type of planning. And hey, your long term planning is you have no long term plan. That's fine too. You don't got to go long term. You might be here for 6 months or a year. I mean, that's not normally what I would recommend people. But hey, some people plan a short term. They could do that. So yeah, there could be some people that would do exactly that. All right, my friends, I think I'm going to drop out of here. I do have to work on those models, get a little bit more information up. Smart the likes. Smash the likes on the way out if you haven't already, and check me out over at HEXFire IO on the X. I do post some information up there from time to time. You can check out my website at hexfire.io, and we'll see you the next time. So everybody stay